Hi everyone. I'm very pleased to have the director Las Diaz and actress as well as the assistant director of the project, Hazel Orencio. So we are here today to discuss the film History of Her with the both of you. So firstly, very happy to be doing this recording with the both of you. I will start off with the first question. So, I mean, I want to dive deep straight into, the context of the film. So I think throughout this film, we see Fernando and we see how disillusioned he is. And I felt like this also corresponds with, I think, this so-called this massive Filipino disillusion of the late 50s. So I think for people who are not so familiar with that era in Philippines, I'd like to ask both of you if you guys could maybe share some information or what happened during that history that corresponded with Fernando's disillusionment in the film.
Okay, the film is set in 1957. It was set in 1957. It was the year when President Magsaysay died. His plane crashed, and it devastated the whole nation because he's like a Christ-like figure in the country. During the war, he was really, popular guerrilla leader against the Japanese. He's one of the leaders of the Japanese resistance against the Japanese during the war. And after the war, he was more popular because he was appointed as the defense secretary by the new president of the Philippines, and he became really popular amongst the masses. And then after that, in 1954, he ran for president. So he won. And his popularity is really massive. So, and he's being supported by America. Of course, it's the post-war thing, the construction and everything. And at the same time, during the period, the Japanese, there's another group, another popular group during the Japanese resistance. It's led by socialist cadres. And after the war, they continued the struggle against imperialism, against feudalism. It became very popular, especially in the zone. At some point, they can really take, Manila. They can take over. But then, it was the persona of Magsaysay was used by the Americans, and they reversed the situation. He's really that popular. So that period of reconstruction with this fledgling nation, was cut off by, symbolically and everything by the death of Magsaysay. So there's that kind of, deep fracture that was created by the death, and it was a disillusionment really. It was a cataclysm, and until now it's being felt. It's a nation that's looking for a Magsaysay. The great leader, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, for people who know your cinema, we all know that more than the black and white, more than the long takes or long duration, I think to me, the signature of your cinema, it's about how you create expansive inquiries, introspections into Filipino history and imagination. I think that to me is the key to your cinema. And I think you have done a lot of different eras of Filipino history or the Malay archipelago. Why particularly this late 50s in this film? And I also note that you were also born during that era. So is there a certain affinity towards that era that you wanted to create?
Well, first, my father, my young father, he was a very young man then. He's like a teenager, but he was already a courier of the socialist movement then. He was part of that. And he told me those stories about the struggles then. So that's one connection. It's the film is sort of a tribute to my father, who was a teacher then. He became a teacher in that part of the country in Mindanao, and the part of the character of Fernando is inspired by my father. He's a teacher, a great teacher. He worked with the indigenous peoples of Mindanao, when we were young. So, and of course, part of, again, anchoring a material, a film on a certain epoch, like the 1950s, it's a forgotten era in our history now. They don't really know the 50s. Young people, they don't know the 50s. They don't even know Magsaysay Sai. They know that he was a great leader or a popular leader for that matter, but they don't know who he was, what he did, what happened during the period. So it's part again of my cinema's responsibility to educate our people, the Malay people, about what happened in this period.
Yeah, I think we also have to talk about that period and the popular form of that period, which is the vaudeville, which is so what Fernando was an artist of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why particularly interested in vaudeville artist?
Vaudeville is an American thing. It's American medium. It's a form of entertainment popularized by the Americans, and they introduced that medium in the Philippines in the 20s, and it became so massive, very popular in the 30s, and then during the war, it was the form of entertainment in all the big cities of Manila, and some progressive groups also use vaudeville. We have our indigenized term vaudeville. From vaudeville, Vaudiville, it became vaudeville, which is Malay, Bodabil. And all the popular performers in the country, they came, they're from vaudeville. They crossed over. They went to cinema, which is also becoming a popular medium then. But they're all from vaudeville. Vaudeville is a mix of burlesque and infused with, integrated with the Filipino form of entertainments like moro-moros, zarzuela. We have those, our local forms of entertainment, theater, and they were integrated with this American thing, and it became vaudeville, the Filipino vaudeville. But it also symbolically, died. It became obscure after Magsaysay Sai, and in the 60s it became really, really bad. There's still vaudeville up to the 70s, but they become very sexual and really bad. It's become crude in form of entertainment, but before it was really great. During the 30s, 40s, up to the 50s.
How come it there was this demise to this art form? I mean, just curious.
Well, it's cinema, television, radio, and of course, it's the kind of they're relegated to the more cheap theaters in the country. So
yeah, which I felt like you also touched on in this film. I mean, about the art form being like how it may become cheapened, near the end of the film. But I mean, I wouldn't speak so much about the film, but maybe I'm now interested to speak about the actor, Lloyd Cruz. I think you guys worked with him for quite a few times already.
And this is the fourth with him, yeah.
Fourth time. Yeah. How was the relationship like with you as a director and him as an actor, and especially in such a such a specific role where he almost has to play two characters, right? How did you speak to him or even advise him about anything while he crafts these two characters?
With this film, there's not much of a discourse with him. I just told him that he will play a ventriloquist, an ideologue, an intellectual, a disillusioned Marxist, a socialist, or maybe an anarchist in a way, more of an anarchist. And he researched on those things. I just asked him to research on how ventriloquists work with their puppets, how their psychology is. So he made some research on, of course, YouTube. There are performances there and some, materials to work on. I just let him, have his own way with the character. And the way we did it during the shoot is that I wrote the script at night and I give it to Hazel in the morning, and we discuss on it a bit. He's very free with the character. John is a very intuitive and intelligent actor, so you don't really need a lot of discourse with him on how to portray the character. It's more on understanding the scene, studying it. He's more into that.
Yeah.
Every time we give him the script, he hides, and then when he comes to the scene, he's very ready, and that's it. It's a very simple thing. Not really simple, but that's the process with him. Yeah.
It just sounds very highly collaborative, and I'm
yes,
also
very much. Yeah.
Also quite curious about how Hazel, you come into this this particular production. Your involvement, obviously on screen as an actress, quite an aggressive one on screen. But how else are you involved in the creative process? Maybe playing off with John, or your such close collaboration with Love as well. I'm quite curious about your contributions to this project. Yeah.
For this project, right?
Yeah.
I helped Lloyd. Of course, during the shoot, with the ventriloquism part is of course dubbed. So during the shoot, it was me who reads the line, but it's not easy as it seems, because we have to talk. I mean, with about timing, delivering the lines. So it's really not easy. We really have to talk before we do each scene, especially if it's an emotional scene. So yes, it's a different collaboration on that part. Yeah, and of course, being the assistant director also, I help him memorize. He has lines, especially by the latter part of the film. Yeah.
How about you, between yourself and Love, like in terms of not just the acting but the scripting and all that? Like how are you usually involved? And I guess especially with this project.
There were murder attempts.
Of course, being the assistant director and production manager, I really wait for Love to give the script. Usually, the script comes early in the morning, as early as 5 in the morning sometimes, and then 6 in the morning, sometime maybe 8, 9 in the morning. But anyway, when he gives me the script, that's when I start breaking down the scenes, the requirements, and then as a production manager, of course, I start listing the costs of requirements, and then I endorse also the call sheets to the actors. Of course, the department heads, the production designer, the art department team, and also the costume. So that's how we work, because we're composed of very skeletal crew. So it's not really hard to work around. So not hard for me to handle both the production management and the assistant directing job.
The acting, right? So I think this film was shot I believe it was in 2019. So the pandemic wasn't in Philippines at the time, right? So did the pandemic affect the film?
We shot it before. No?
Yeah, before.
We shot the film before the pandemic came.
Yeah, 2019.
2019,
yeah. But I mean, in terms of release, you guys could only release in this year. So
yes.
Yeah.
It took a while for the editing and everything. We some projects overlap because the pandemic. We did also 2 films during the pandemic. This pandemic, so and there's no way we can really finish it because there are no theaters or everything stopped, and now it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the film, I think I asked about your relationship between the director and the actor, but I'm also quite interested in the relationship between Love, your cinema, and Fernando's Vaudeville. I think as a viewer, I felt like there was certain reflections. I don't know whether it's just my intuition. That I don't know whether there are any similarities, despite the eras that we're living in, or in terms of how you and Fernando, both artists, approach your practice in your society. Like, I don't know whether there's something you want to comment.
Yeah, it's a big part of the film is I'm trying to reflect and I'm trying to question my medium as well, my role as an artist, my responsibility, or the very role of Fernando and his interaction with her, which is still they're one and the same. How he discourses on matters of aesthetics, matters of compromise, matters of responsibility, his humanity and his own failures, his own failings. Well, it's me, the artist, speaking as well. Trying to work on my doubts, on everything that's bothering me as an artist, as a filmmaker, as a social worker, as a cultural worker, as a teacher in a way. My cinema is part of my cinema is educating our people. So yeah, it's a discourse, between me and everything that I do.
Yeah.
Discourse on my cinema as well.
Yeah.
All my doubts about this medium, all my doubts about what I'm doing. Yeah.
It just felt really, I don't know, deeply personal, especially now I know that it's also partly a tribute to your father's time as a young man and his history.
Yes,
yeah. I don't know whether there are any, to me in the film, Fernando struggles a lot, to reconcile himself, his place, his worth, and his art. How about love yourself, like during this time?
Yes. A lot of most of the time I struggle to not just understand the medium, but its role. Its role as a medium. It's not just an entertainment thing. But I don't do cinema as an entertainment thing, but more of a responsibility to society. So I question that very much. It's you go from being dialectical to being very emotional about it. It's an everyday thing, actually. It's like waking up and trying to understand life again, from the very existential questions to everything. So you do that with the medium, and I'm doing that with my medium. Like I'm in the process of creating a new film right now, and then I have so many doubts about it. It's just easy to turn our backs on these things, but at the same time, if you think about what's happening, not just in my country, in the whole world, then you have to push it again. You see that, in your own small way, then you can at least contribute something if you do it right. If you, just be very honest and truthful about your work, about the vision of your work, then maybe it can help. That gives us hope as well. It gives me that push and energy to continue doing this, this very, very, they call that complicated medium. For me, I still don't understand cinema, but I'm living in cinema, so I have to keep going and doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's also why we're here, right? Because a film festival has to promote the filmmaker and try to get your work seen by the masses. I think that's also my responsibility here for you as well.
Yes,
so I think with that, this video is for the Singapore International Film Festival, largely a Singaporean audience. I'm just wondering, both Hazel and Love, like, do you guys have anything you want to say specifically to our audience here? If you have any.
Please continue, to the audience. Yeah, I mean, my relationship with the audience is very complicated as well, because I don't make my cinema for the audience. I make cinema for cinema, which means I really work hard on cinema for them to get something out of it. I don't want to entertain them. I don't want to appease them. I want them to struggle with me, and I want them to struggle with life as well. So, I don't want to ask them to embrace cinema, but I want them to really, really, push themselves to understand cinema. If they watch cinema at all, please watch cinema. See something in it.
Yeah. Hazel, anything to add? Yeah.
It's so hard to add to that. But maybe just be all like Fernando. Let's not give up on each other, especially during this time of pandemic when it's hard to, even with the filmmaking now, it's really hard. And what more showing the film to your audience or other art forms, it's a struggle for all the artists. But let's all be like Fernando. Let's not give up on each other, you know, even if no one is watching, let's still make films, let's still show films. So yeah, please watch History of Ha.
Yeah, I think with that, again,
Thank you.
Thank you, love. Thank you, Hazel, for being with me here.
Thank you.
I mean, quick chat. So thank you, and everyone, please watch History of Her at the Singapore.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.